Now you're still watching Newsday, and a meeting between the presidency and labor unions has been adjourned. Both parties agreed to postpone the talks to allow labor representatives to examine President Bola Tinubu's national broadcast. It came just 48 hours before the planned nationwide protests by labor unions, which they insist will proceed as scheduled. The NLC leader, Joe Ajaero, reacted to measures announced by the president.
That 3,000 will be for Lagos. And we have 36 states and FCT. So if that is, because I have not listened to it, if that is the situation, 3,000 buses, and that even will not go to rural areas. As part of macroeconomic policies or what?
This is what
by the time you have a single market and then you are not having anything that has comparative advantage, you are even energy is import driven. And then how are you going to control it? How are you going to control somebody that exchange dollar at the extent of maybe 900? Are you going to tell him to sell at below the price? How are you going to tell even NEPA today, with the cost of production, not to increase tariff? Even corn in the villages that was sold at 18,000 by February, now is about 56,000. How are you going to control it? How you control the woman that goes from the house and transportation increase 3 times to reduce the cost of garri? So we need to, understand all those things. Probably because we have not listened to Mr. President's speech. By the time we listen to it, we understand, where that is going to.
We had a good meeting. Issues were thrashed out on the situation in Nigeria today, in terms of with the issues centered around government intervention on the situation in the country. And we agreed to adjourn till tomorrow. As you know, Mr. President is making a national broadcast today, anytime from now actually. And based on what we anticipate that Mr. President will be telling Nigerians, we decided to adjourn this meeting till 12 noon tomorrow, before I guess Labour can decide whether or not they want to continue with their protests on Wednesday. But we believe that after tonight's broadcast, the President will speak to all the issues. He will roll out his interventions, and needless to say, we believe any reasonable person will tell you that at that point there will be no need for any protest.
All Rise analyst Dayo Sobowale joins us now to discuss Wednesday's planned strike by Labour against the backdrop of government's efforts at resolving disputes arising from the removal of fuel subsidy. Good afternoon, Mr. Sobowale. Good to have you on this day.
Nice. Be here, Sujha.
Yes. So when we look at the history of, actions by organized labor, we've seen what they did in 2003, 2018, 2020, March and June of this year. They've chickened out, if I want to borrow a term from the article that I read. Do you foresee them seeing things through with them saying there might be no going back with tomorrow's actions?
Well, what I will say is that the die is cast. Mm-hmm. And there's uncertainty in the air. Even the president in his speech realized that. Mm-hmm. Because he used a quotation from Chief Obafemi Awolowo, our hero here, who when he was sentenced for treasonable felony said, and I'll go from twilight into darkness, unshaking my belief that the glorious dawn will come tomorrow. That was what Tinubu said yesterday. That there will be pain, but there will be happiness at the end of it all. Well, that is on the side of government, a plea for understanding. But on the side of the unions too, you have to realize that they have a responsibility to their followers. They have a responsibility to show the nation and those who put them there that they are not kowtowing to government. Get me? They are not literally forcing government to make sure that it puts palliatives on the table for Nigerians. Because they have a case. He's saying that they were not consulted before the fuel subsidy was removed. And again, they said as at the time they started negotiation, the fuel price was 150 naira. 500 naira or something like that. But now it has gone to 600 or something, and nobody spoke with them. But I'm happy the president to acknowledge in his speech that it's not market forces that are ruling Nigeria. That we said if it is necessary, we will intervene. That's all we have always tried to say here. And then, remember we were talking the other day, we were talking of walking the talk. He even said it, I had him, that he's ready to walk the talk. And I've always said that you can only hold politicians responsible for what they say and how they perform in office. That is the measure of responsiveness. And he has promised, you have to give him benefit of doubt. As for Labour, in my view, if they can manage a peaceful protest, I will say government should allow them to do it, as long as it's not hijacked like the SARS.
Yes.
But I think they have enough discipline to be able to control the situation. Well, protest is a legitimate democratic right, especially in the face of serious hardship, in which the ding-dong battle between government resolve and expectations of the people. So, I don't see any historical precedent. So, because this situation is unheard of. You get me now? People have always thought that the fuel subsidy
will never go. Yeah.
But then, Mark, what Jamia Miller said, that they are facing serious forces. They asked him if they were more powerful than government. He said they are. So he said, so it's a ding-dong battle. It's a ding-dong battle, and we hope sanity will prevail, that violence will not hijack what is on the ground, because I said they should be involved in integrative collective bargaining, which at the end of the day it will be a win-win all for both government and the Labour. Labour would have been seen by its followership to have done its duty. Government too must have been seen to have listened to Labour and to put, government, my view, needs to put the palliatives on the ground faster than it is doing so far.
Talking about integrative collective bargaining. I like that. Dynamics 101.
Well, let's talk about, if the NLC agrees to, goes ahead with this peaceful protest tomorrow, that in itself would be a violation of a court order. The Federal Ministry of Justice has restated just yesterday its warning against the plan for the NLC to go on strike. So if we're looking at the obedience to the rule of law, wouldn't the NLC be, intentionally disobeying a court order if they go ahead with this protest?
That is the dynamics 102 or 201. This is a give and take situation. You see, you can't be too rigid the way we are now. It's when two forces are staring at each other, and we want to have a sort of balance of terror. You get me now? You know my arsenal. I know your arsenal too. It just happened during the Cold War era. America, and they know what they have. So you don't want to annihilate yourself. That is where we are now. We are in a state of fuel subsidy removal deterrence, mutual deterrence on the consequences of the removal of fuel subsidy. So there must be understanding, there must be maturity. You get me? And there must be responsibility on both sides. The other time I mentioned something about compassionate accountability. That is what is bound to happen now. We must understand our president, bear with him. At the same time, Labour must be allowed to express its leadership and its rights. But Labour too must know that in terms of having political stability, its own freedom ends where our dose begins, because we all have a stake.
Indeed, we all do. And thank you so much for your time here on Newsday, Mr. Dayo.